Hey everyone, it's Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone reminding you to watch Sports Ballers, the podcast that gets you caught up on everything Washington sports and beyond.
Ballers podcast. My name is Eric. I have hosting duties this week, and I am joined by Corey Puffett and Evan Nash. As always, how are you fellas doing today?
I'm exhausted.
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I was going to say, Corey was a little snoozing there a little bit, and I asked the question. I was like, dead air is a great way to start.
Yes, it is, isn't it? So I was out in Rockville this afternoon and drove after work. I drove back here, and it took me about 34 minutes to get to Rockville when I left DeMatha at 3 o'clock. It took me an hour and a half at least to get back home from Rockville because at one point on the Beltway, I think it took about 25 minutes to go half a mile.
That sounds about right.
Yikes.
Terrifying. But so Evan, any fun stories for you today, or you doing good?
We'll get to them. They're in the notes. So.
Oh. Okay. Well, I'm assuming I know what that's about. We've got a lot to get to today. We've got the NBA playoffs right around the corner, along with the NBA play-in currently going on. But since that's kind of the big thing happening right now, we'll start in the NFL because that is not particularly interesting right now, but we'll get to it anyway. Got a little bit of news there. Baltimore Ravens, your boys, Evan, signed Odell Beckham Jr. to a one-year deal. I believe the base salary is $15 million, but there's like $3 million in incentives, so it could total up to $18 million. Yeah. This feels like it's about 5 years too late, but what do you think, Evan?
I mean, I guess better late than never. You know, it's definitely an upgrade over the guys who were in that wide receiver room already. But it remains to be seen how Odell has recovered from now his second torn ACL in his many knees. So, you know, it's sort of just a question mark in that regard. I saw a tweet, I think from Ian Rappaport, which Rappaport's on NFL Network? Is his name Ian, or is that?
Yes,
Ian?
That's Ian.
Okay.
Michael's the crummy actor.
Okay.
What is Michael Rappaport even in?
He's been in some things. He was featured in the Chappelle Show skit, the Pop Copy skit. He was there.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like I've never heard the name Michael Rappaport.
I think you would recognize him. He's small time, but he also kind of.
Anyway, it was definitely Ian Rappaport. Yes. He's the famous one.
he's rapping it, yes.
Yeah. Tweeted that Lamar Jackson was involved in actively recruiting Odell to the Ravens.
They were celebrating down in Florida after Odell signed, I saw.
Who's they? Lamar
and Odell were celebrating together down in Florida after he signed this contract.
Okay, well, I guess there's some tea leaves to be read there.
Maybe Lamar needs to go back to the castle and sign a contract, right?
Maybe
they need to offer him a contract.
Well, I mean, you know, it takes two to tango, right? It's Lamar and the Ravens. Both of y'all messing up.
I think Lamar has been trying to tango, and the Ravens have not been entering the dance floor.
Lamar has made his demands clear. The Ravens have made it clear they're not interested in meeting them. Ergo, here we are.
You better get interested. Do you like losing? But yeah, so we'll see what happens with Odell. But you know, it's nice to have somebody famous in here. I will say, the Torrey Smith, fellow Maryland Terrapin for some of y'all, went on Twitter and was like, Odell Beckham Jr. is the most famous athlete in Baltimore history. Or the most, I don't remember the word he used, iconic or something like that. I'm like, are you kidding me? He said famous?
Even biggest is not, like, Cal Ripken, anybody?
How about Johnny Unitas? Yeah. Like, the basically the godfather of football and modern football. He played here in Baltimore.
He did.
There's a statue of him. He never actually played for the Ravens because they didn't exist back then. They were the Colts. But his statue, along with Ray Lewis, those are the two statues out in front.
Speaking of Ray Lewis, Ed Reed.
Yeah. Yeah,
And Odell hasn't played in Baltimore yet. He's played 0 games.
He's played as many games as an actual Baltimorean, Bill Belichick.
That's also true because Bill Belichick never played professional football.
No, he didn't.
He didn't even play college football. Anyway, Torrey Smith was off base. Clearly,
That's it.
just firing from the hip there on that one and missing badly. Don't know why. Don't know why he thought that was a good idea. I mean, he's from here, right? Like,
yes.
He went to college here. He played professionally here, right?
I don't know where he's from as far as high school, but yes, he played
matter.
college and professionally here.
Virginia or something.
He's familiar with the area. He ought to know that
He's
Baltimore
familiar with Baltimore's oeuvre.
has had quite a few big name stars. He walked in the stadium and did never ask the questions like, who's that quarterback guy there that they built a statue of? Like, really? Come on, man.
Who's his teammate, Ray Lewis? Who's that guy?
Yeah.
You heard of him?
No idea. But is that all you got
So
on
that's all I got on
Odell?
Ravens.
You're good? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that does it for the football portion of the show because it is April and it is not draft day yet.
Not yet.
We are preparing for our draft show in 2 weeks.
2 weeks from tomorrow.
Which will be great. I've got some prep to do. And by some, I mean all of the prep I was going to do. I haven't done any of it yet, so
I've started listening to a few podcasts. I haven't got a chance to watch film yet, but I've listened to some podcasts.
I don't consider that prep. I consider grinding tape prep.
Yeah, that'll be the big thing. And then, I've also got to figure out, what we're going to do as far as video and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's your forte. You're the one that boosts all the equipment from the school, so, Shh. Yeah. Shh. Yeah.
Nobody's listening anyway.
It might be. It might be.
We actually got 20 YouTube listeners right now. I was kidding.
Red hot, baby.
Oh.
All right, so let's jump over to Major League Baseball because some things have happened since the last time we conversed. Corey, no Yankee stuff, so nothing of note. Or forgot or too lazy, don't care, whatever.
Didn't have a chance to put it in the doc, but I guess I can talk just a little bit. Yankees have been playing pretty decently. So at this point, they have won every single series this season, all of them 2-1. So they just wrapped up a 2-1 series win against Cleveland today with a 4-3 victory over the Guardians. Of course, Emmanuel Clase blows the save, loses the game for me because I decided, you know what? The Yankees are due to lose a series, and they've got freaking what's-his-face Schmidt on the mound today, who has not pitched particularly well. Didn't pitch particularly well today either. Only threw 4 innings, gave up 3 runs, so he's at an 8.44 ERA through 3 starts this season. It's not good. 8.44 after 1 start, you can chalk that up as he just had 1 bad start. But after 3, he's doing something wrong. But our bullpen crushed, and Holmes wound up getting the save on the day that I benched him for Clase in my fantasy league. So.
This is what happens when you believe in being due, Corey.
Yes, apparently. But, Yankees got the series win. They got the series win in Baltimore this past weekend, which to your guys' chagrin, lost the first game, but then won games 2 and 3 of that series on Saturday and Sunday. So now we start a 4-game set against Minnesota. That series will start tomorrow, 1 through Sunday. And then we get our first off day since the second day of the season, the day after opening day. They'll have an off day on Monday.
Okay. All right, so I guess that leaves us to talk about Demeus, Han. The Orioles have beaten the Oakland Athletics in the first 2 games of their 4-game set, including last night's game that you boys were at. Evan and I attended along with our good friend Sean Kennedy, and we're in attendance for Grayson Rodriguez's first home start. That didn't go as well as it could have, but the Orioles did end up winning. It was a barn burner of a game. Final score was 12-8, and 20 runs scored, and game was over in 3 hours and 8 minutes. And since it was a 6:30 start time, and since I now live a lot closer to the ball yard, I was home at 10:30. It was great. So shout
20
out.
runs and home 3.5 hours after the game ended, or after the game started.
Well, 4 because it started at 6:30.
Game started at 6:30.
So shout out to 6:30 start times. Shout out to pitch clocks. And shout out to living in Howard County, man. Got me home at 10:30. Got home in time to watch the vast majority of the Lakers Wolves play-in game. I will get to that later. But Evan, we had a pretty good time last night. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a fun. Shout out to you, Eric, for buying beer for Sean and myself and yourself.
That's what I did.
And it was a great time. Shout out to Jimmy John's. That sandwich was delicious. Oh my goodness gracious. Just go in a little depth on Grayson Rodriguez. It was his T-shirt night. 4 1/3 innings, 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 4 walks, and 6 strikeouts. But he really only allowed 2 earned runs while he was on the mound. He did walk the bases loaded right before he left the game. And the Orioles brought in Austin Voth, who sucks. And, of course, Voth lets all 3 inherited runners score. And then I want to say Voth, then the next guy hits a home run. Or, he's terrible. I'm ready to see him get out of here. But, that was just a little primer, a little taste, because Ryan Mountcastle was just getting started. He has tied the Orioles franchise single game record for RBIs with 9, tying him with Jim Gentile, who was great for the Orioles back in the 50s, maybe even early 60s, while the team was still bad after their move from St. Louis. And he also tied Hall of Famer Eddie Murray with 9 RBIs. And he's the first Oriole to accomplish this feat in a home game. So, congratulations.
Yeah, that home run that he hit, the second one that he hit was just an absolute laser. Sounds like Evan has conked out on us, which is typical. So everybody knows that Oriole Park has recently pushed their left field wall back extremely far to the point where they're allowing reverse unicorn fly ball outs. For those who are unfamiliar, unicorn is when a ball leaves a ballpark, but it only would have left that ballpark. Like, unicorns happen in Yankee Stadium a lot because of the short right field porch. Oriole Park now has the reverse of that, where people fly out to the warning track and would have been a home run in all 29 other parks. So Austin Hayes, I believe, had one of those happen to him. I think it was the first one in the history of anybody that's tracked those home runs. So that was interesting. But Ryan Mountcastle's home run was no doubt about it right off the bat, just an absolute laser. Immediately stood up and was like, "That's going to be a grand slam," and the Orioles are going to go up. I think that put them up 5 runs, or maybe
5.
Yeah, and then they eventually
put them up 5. Y'all can hear me.
Yeah. It was a great game. Glad to see the Orioles get a win. They're currently playing the A's again right now. They are trailing 4-2. Dean Kramer has once again not had a great start for the 4th time in a row. Like, he's just.
It's only the 3rd time in a row.
Oh, this is only just. Right. Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, good point.
This is the 12th game.
It feels like he's been out there getting bombed on a lot, but it's only been 3 times. His ERA is under 10 now, though. It improved today, despite the fact that he gave up 4 runs in 4 1/3 innings. But whatever. Yeah. But we got to send Grayson back down because his command issues are bad. Can't let him figure it out in the show, but we'll let Dean Kramer, whose career ERA is in the 6s, we're going to keep him up.
His career ERA is in the 6s? What?
I was being facetious,
really?
But he had a 7-something ERA a couple years ago, and then last year he has a shockingly good season, and now it's like, oh, he's a staple of the rotation. I'm like, dude, this guy's a career bum. Like, do we really think he's good now? Because I didn't, and this is showing itself to be the case, but what do I know?
He's 9-15 with a 4.84 ERA.
Not very good. Not very good.
He's 0-0 somehow. 9.49 ERA this season.
Well, hopefully he stays 0-0 and the Orioles are able to rally and get this win. But anyway, yeah, the bats have been great, though, for some of them at least. Austin Hayes has really made a liar out of me, at least to start the year. He also started the year great last year, so hopefully he sustains it. I feel like when he gets nicked up a little bit, he just loses focus and just doesn't have the same attention that he did. Like when he's feeling great, he's hitting as well as you see anybody hitting baseball. But sprain a wrist or tweak a hammy or something like that, he just falls apart. It's weird, but hopefully he's able to stay healthy and able to stay productive because he's been awesome.
And how about we don't dive into first base?
Yes, that's also
avoid
preferable.
that.
Don't do that. But yeah, Ryan Mountcastle he's got 5 home runs on the year, including 2 that we saw yesterday. Adley Rutschman's already hit 3 home runs. He was batting like .395 coming into today. OPS north of 11, which is insane. But there's other guys who've been struggling too. Cedric Mullins has been off to a slow start. Gunnar Henderson has not hit the ball well, and Anthony Santander's been a little bit sluggish. But when you're getting that kind of production from the top 3, you can kind of weather the storm when some of the other guys start slow. But they're going to have to pick it up at some point because you can't expect Ryan Mountcastle to hit 2 home runs a night. You can't expect Adley Rutschman to have an OPS of 1128 the whole season, right? Like he's really good, but he's not Barry Bonds, juicing Barry Bonds as I'm referring to there. So hopefully the order stabilizes a little bit and the Orioles can be a little more consistent with the bats.
If he were to juice, would he be as good as non-juicing Barry Bonds?
I don't know. I have no idea because non-juicing Barry Bonds was really, really good. Like he won like 3
That's
MVPs.
That's why I thought it would be an easy no.
But Adley Rutschman's really good, so you don't know. Don't know.
Rutschman is killing it for me.
Yeah, which kind of kills the vibe a little bit that he's helping Corey.
Well, he grounded into a double play.
Y'all could have had him.
So. You're right.
I didn't draft him until like the 7th round.
You're right. I got Will Smith though, and he's been killing it for me too, so I'm pretty happy.
Does he have 24 points through a week and a half?
You mean like
almost 2 weeks now, I guess.
Well,
24 points in the season.
Well, he had 19.75 through Sunday, so okay. He's been really good. So don't disregard. But I think that does it for Major League Baseball. Except obviously, shout out to the Tampa Bay Rays, who are about to be 12-0 because they're starting to waylay the Red Sox again. They're up 8-3 and have another threatening situation. They got 2 runners on with 2 outs in the bottom of the 5th. So
I think the Major League record is 13 wins in a row to start a season, and that's happened twice. The Brewers did it once, and was it the Blue Jays?
The Brewers did that and missed the playoffs.
Yeah,
it's
they
hilarious.
What?
Yes. Yeah, the Brewers started 13-0 and missed the postseason. I think they threw in a 12-game losing streak in that season to kind of even it out. So I don't think Tampa's going to do that. They're the real deal, but they're also beating up on some crummy teams. That helps you start off that hot. But 12-0 is 12-0, right? Assuming they don't blow this game.
Yeah.
I mean, good teams lose to bad teams occasionally. Like how often do you sweep a series in the regular season? Like, your bad pitcher is eventually going to pitch.
Yeah, like, that's the thing is baseball is the only sport where you intentionally send out a different team every night because you have a different starting pitcher, right?
Yep.
Like, it's not like, basketball, football. If everybody's healthy, you're going to play the same 22 guys or the same 5 guys, in the starting lineup. But in baseball, your most important player every night is in a rotation.
Yeah.
So, there's sometimes you get, there's cases where the other team's going to win 55 games, but they've got the next coming of Pedro Martinez on their team. So that night, you might just take the L. It happens. All right. I guess that means we're moving on to the NBA, which means you're going to be hearing a whole lot of my voice, which is great. The play-in games started yesterday, the first 2, the 7-8 games as they were, which I think it's good they play the 7-8 games first.
Oh, yeah. Well, they should go first because they should have whoever loses that game still finished ahead of the 9-10 teams and should get that extra day of rest.
Yep.
So not to mention they should get a chance to watch the other game in order to scout them and see who they're going to be playing, as opposed to the other way around. That 8-9 winner or 9-10 winner being able to like watch the game to see who they're going to play.
Plus, the 7-8 winner gets an extra day of rest because they don't have to play till the weekend now.
Right.
And
they're going to need that because they're going up against the number 2 seed.
Yeah, and a team that's been chilling since Sunday. So that little bit of extra rest definitely helps. Anyway, so the first play-in game was surprisingly uninteresting because of who was ahead. The Atlanta Hawks took it to the Miami Heat in Miami.
Former DeMatha cross-country runner Sadiq Bey on the Hawks.
Yeah, was on the Pistons to start the year and got traded. So, yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. A little bit of concern for the Heat, who were considered kind of the team that the Celtics wouldn't want to face in the 2-7, which I think is true just because the Heat gave them trouble last year, right? Like, Jimmy Butler makes that 3, the Celtics don't go to the NBA Finals. So that was definitely an area of concern, whereas I think the Hawks will probably be a walkover for them. And I don't think the Bucks are afraid of anybody, so even if the Heat end up winning the 8-9-10 game, as it were, I don't think they'd be worried about them or the Bulls, or I believe the Raptors are the other team they're currently playing right now.
You don't think it's a mistake to not be worried at all about Jimmy Butler?
I mean, you're going to play who you're going to play, but from a perspective of a fan or an observer, like obviously the Bucks are going to take everybody seriously, but I wouldn't worry about it, right? Like I think the Bucks are going to take care of whoever they play in the first round. There's a reason the Heat are in the play-in, and there's a reason they got waffled by the Hawks yesterday, who are not that good. And it's because they are not what they were a few years ago in the bubble, and they're not even what they were last year when they made the conference finals. So, I mean, the Bucks are going to take care of business. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case. But the other 9-10 game is the Thunder Pelicans. That is happening at 9:30 tonight on ESPN. The Pelicans are 6-point favorites per ESPN's betting lines that they have on their website. And, of course, the big game of the night was the Lakers-Wolves game. Some people believe the Lakers, despite being the 7th seed and being a participant in the play-in, could be the team that wins the Western Conference and maybe even the NBA championship.
Which I think is kind of hilarious, but do you think they actually have a chance?
I've been waiting to see it, right? Since they made this trade when they got Russell Westbrook out of town and he ended up with the Clippers, and they went and built out their depth, and they got D'Angelo Russell, and they got Malik Beasley, and they got Jared Vanderbilt. They greatly improved their depth and the pieces around LeBron and AD.
And obviously AD's been healthy for the past roughly month, and he's been balling out.
Yeah, he's been good, although he had a massive brain fart yesterday, which extended the game into overtime. But
it's ridiculous that game even made it to overtime because the Lakers were terrible. Like you pointed out, what was it at halftime that LeBron was like minus 21?
Yeah, the Lakers were terrible.
How are you minus 21 with LeBron on the court?
The Lakers were terrible throughout the game, and the Timberwolves were terrible down the stretch. They absolutely choked. And like the Timberwolves had no excuse to lose that basketball game. And like I said, since LeBron has come back, all that's happened was the Lakers basically played a bunch of teams that were either tanking or just outright sucked or were resting players. Or the one time they played the Clippers, they got a big excuse because they were on a back-to-back, which, okay. It was a back-to-back and they went to overtime, but it went to overtime because they blew a 10-point lead with less than 2 minutes to go against the Jazz, who, need I remind you, are tanking. So, again, I've been waiting to see it from this team. I'm like, okay, everybody keeps saying this team's got championship DNA. It's got LeBron and AD's healthy and he's playing well. And, they've got Austin Reeves, who's apparently the new Alex Caruso, where he's the white guy that everybody falls in love with because he's the white guy in LeBron's rotation. So, whatever. But I watched that game last night, and I was like, I can't believe people think this team is going to win a championship. It's asinine to me. I'm like, I don't see it. I just don't see it. I've had opportunities to watch this team over the last week and a half because they've had to play to win down the stretch, and they've looked inadequate. They make dumb mistakes. They don't really have a whole lot of guys who can score other than LeBron, and even LeBron has moments where he has to slow down because he's 38. Anthony Davis still struggles to pass out of double teams. He makes a lot of mistakes. I don't think this is going to happen for them. I mean, they had to struggle to beat the Timberwolves, who I believe made 2 field goals between the fourth quarter and overtime. So in 17 minutes of play, they made 2 baskets. Like, how does that happen? Like, how do you not just blow them off the court at that point? Because the Lakers couldn't hit any shots either. They were terrible. And, Anthony Davis runs over Mike Conley when they're up 3 with no time on the clock and fouls him on a 3-point shot. Conley makes all 3 free throws, goes to overtime. And I'm like, you guys deserve to lose. But the Timberwolves deserve to lose more. And, it was a game where Karl Towns had a game that basically epitomizes his whole career, where he comes out in the first half and he's dominating. He's getting to the hoop at will. He's making great passes when he pressures the rim. He was hitting shots in people's faces. He was getting it done. He was on the glass. And everybody was looking at him and was like, damn, that's why we thought you would be better than you are, because you can do stuff like that. But he did the Karl Towns thing where he commits a bunch of stupid fouls and gets himself into foul trouble. And then he picks up his 5th foul early in the fourth quarter, has to go to the bench. He comes back in the game, and he was totally gun-shy for the rest of the game. He wasn't aggressive. He didn't demand the ball when he had mismatches, when he had dudes that were on him that's 6 inches shorter. And I believe the reason why is because he was afraid that if he put the ball on the ground and attempted to score on somebody, he would inevitably push off or commit an offensive foul and be out of the game. So he settled for jumpers, and he missed them all. And Anthony Edwards had probably the first time in I've seen him play basketball where he looked unconfident. Like, I've never seen Anthony Edwards look like he didn't want the ball in his hands in the big moment, but he struggled offensively early. It looked like he also had something happen to his shoulder where he had to put some weird tape on it, and he was very passive the rest of the game. Like, the first half he played great defense but couldn't buy a bucket, but he at least pressured the rim and created some open looks for guys like Taurean Prince. In the fourth quarter of that game, he just dribbled, passed it to somebody else. They dribbled a bunch and passed it to somebody else. Nobody wanted the basketball for the Timberwolves. And I don't understand how Chris Finch just stood there and watched that happen and didn't call a timeout and say, hey, you, Ant, you, Karl, you guys are all-stars, okay? Get your head out of your ass and figure it out, okay? We don't care. If you miss, you miss, but we're riding with y'all. Y'all are the best players on this team. You're going to take us as far as we go, so go try to get it done. And if we lose, so be it. But don't go out like this. And sometimes, again, Anthony Edwards is 21 years old, okay? As impressive as he has been, he's 21 years old playing in the NBA playoffs, or playing in this situation. So a do-or-die situation, effectively, in a lot of ways. And he's going to have moments like that where it's like, oh, God, what do I do? The things I normally do with ease are not coming to me right now. Sometimes you need a coach to kind of recalibrate you there, and Chris Finch didn't do it.
Isn't that the coach you were complaining about a few years ago? Who?
No, not a few years ago. Last season,
was just standing there spectating.
Yes, as the Grizzlies went on a 21.
Time is weird nowadays.
Yeah, as the Grizzlies went on a 21-0 run in a playoff game, and he never called a timeout. He should have called a timeout when it was an 8-0 run. And then he should have called another timeout when it was a 15-0 run. And then he finally called a timeout when it was a 21-0 run and they blew an 18-point lead. I just couldn't believe it. And then he had the audacity, the temerity, the unmitigated gall to complain about the officials yesterday when Karl Towns got called for his 5th foul because he fouled Anthony Davis on a rebound attempt. Now, did AD sell it? Yes. Anthony Davis had about 3 flops in 12 seconds. But Towns still did the stupid thing that committed the foul. And he complained about, he said the ref's whistle sent him to the bench. I'm like, no, Karl Towns sent himself to the bench by committing a dumb 5th foul after he'd already committed a dumb 4th foul, after he'd already committed a dumb 3rd foul. That's what he does. Like, I think he leads the league in fouls per game. So this is not unusual. Like, he averages 3.8 fouls a game. And for those of you who don't know the rules, you only get 6. So 3.8 is a ton. And usually your coach goes out of his way to make sure you don't get 6. He puts you on the bench. So this is a consistent problem. It was a problem last year in the playoffs for Karl Towns as well. He's undisciplined. He loses focus, and he just hasn't developed the necessary leadership qualities to get this done. Also doesn't help that Rudy Gobert wasn't there because he decided to punch his teammate.
At least he didn't end the league this time.
That's true.
Or the whole world.
So Rudy Gobert and
is Rudy Gobert a clown? Like, is he just a complete clown?
Did you see what he did when he unknowingly had COVID and he touched all the microphones like a dork? That's clown behavior.
I mean,
He's a clown.
yeah, but like I don't want to judge somebody on their single worst decision.
That's not his single
Right,
worst
like,
decision. His single worst decision was punching a teammate during a game. That's worse.
Okay.
He keeps
Yeah,
putting bad
here.
tape on film. Eventually, you gotta believe he's an idiot, and that's what he is. Don't know what else to tell
Putting
you.
bad film on tape.
Whatever, same thing. All right, so the Wolves will play the winner of the Thunder Pelicans game, and the Heat will play the winner of the Bulls Raptors game. Currently, the Raptors are up 11 points on the Bulls at halftime.
So the Bulls are going to win.
Maybe. I don't think either of these games are relevant because the only team that had any juice coming out of the play-in was the Lakers, and now it's settled who they're going to play, which is the Grizzlies in the first round. And this is where things get interesting for me because if the Lakers had come out and had a dominant showing against the Timberwolves, I was going to come on this podcast and say they're going to beat the Grizzlies.
I'm still going to say they're going to beat the Grizzlies.
I might too, but I'm not as confident.
I'm pretty confident.
I feel like the Grizzlies do not have the right matchups to beat this Lakers team. Like, I have legitimate concerns. Like, their big man depth is lacking given the fact that Steven Adams has been injured. He's out for the series. Evan is again struggling with his damn Skype. It's very annoying. And Brandon Clark is also out for the series. So basically it's going to be Jaren Jackson Jr. wrangling with the Lakers. And Jaren Jackson Jr. is arguably the best defensive player in basketball. But he has a little problem. Like his good buddy Karl Towns, he likes to foul a little too much. And he only plays 27 minutes a game, and it's not because he gets tired, it's because he commits too many fouls. And the Lakers lead the NBA in fouls drawn per game. They lead the NBA in free throws per game, and they by far and away lead the NBA in free throw differential. I'm trying to talk through it. And it's hilarious when you look at free throw differential and you look at like 2 through 5, and it's all like plus 180, plus 175, plus 170, and then you look up at number one, it's the Lakers, and it's plus 430. And it's like, yeah, they draw so many more fouls than everybody else. And if Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to stay on the court, he's going to have to figure out how to avoid the team that draws more fouls than anybody, which just sounds like a disaster. So I think I'm talking myself into picking the Lakers, but they've looked so unimpressive that it's hard to do it.
I don't really have anything to add.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Evan, you got anything that you probably didn't even hear?
No, I don't have anything. Let me know when something cool is happening in the playoffs.
Well,
Like, we walk out of Carowinds after going to Cookout, and it's a Game 7 in the conference finals or something, and the ball's in the air with the clock ticking down.
yes, that did happen.
Jimmy Butler thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were watching Max Strus drool all over the court. That was something else.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of these other matchups that are not super interesting. Like we said, the Bucks and the Nuggets, I expect them to walk over whoever they're going to play. The Grizzlies, Lakers, we just talked about that. The 2-7 matchup, the Celtics are gonna roll the Hawks. But we do have a mailbag question from Corey's wife, Rashonda, about the New York Knicks, who are back in the playoffs after a 1-year absence. They are the 5 seed taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the question is, will the Knicks beat the Cavs? And the answer is absolutely not. No, they will not beat the Cavs because as much as I can't stand Julius Randle and think he's a fraud, he is still the Knicks' second best player at worst, and he ain't going to be here. He's injured. And the Cavs, top to bottom, have a better team. They've got a better best player in Donovan Mitchell. They've got good young talent. They've got size. They're just a better overall team. I don't think the Knicks have much of a chance in that series, just like I didn't think they had much of a chance 2 years ago when they played the Atlanta Hawks. It feels like the Knicks have a ceiling, as enjoyable as they've been under Thibodeau the last 3 years, it's just they don't have the talent level to exceed a 4-5 matchup, and they're going up against a team that's just better than them. So I don't see it happening.
Bummer.
Yeah, what a shame. But we've also got the Warriors are squaring off against the Kings. The Kings hadn't made the playoffs, I should say, since 2006. First time back in the postseason. They are the 3 seed, hosting Golden State, the 6 seed and defending champions. And everybody, and I mean everybody except for Nick Wright, is picking the Warriors to win, despite the fact that the Warriors are the lower seed. And I think that is dangerous. I have real concerns about whether or not this Warriors team can actually put together any type of defense consistently on the road. And they're going to have to win at least one of those games on the road in order to win the series because they don't have home court advantage. And I think that this series could go longer than people think. Like, it's not going to be a 5-game series, I don't think. I think it's going to go 6 or 7. And while I do expect Golden State to figure it out and pull it out because the Kings can't guard anybody either, and good luck guarding at Steph Curry when you can't guard anybody. But I just don't buy into this idea that the Warriors are going to flip a switch and come into the playoffs and roll everybody. That's not. I don't think that's realistic.
Warriors are going to win the finals.
I think it's worth pointing out that
Corey says the Warriors are going to win the title.
Yeah, I said the Warriors are going to win the finals.
Okay. I think it's worth pointing out that San Francisco and Sacramento are like an hour and a half drive apart.
Yes.
The Kings have been irrelevant for, I don't know if decades is the right term, but at least 1 decade.
Decades
and
is...
the Warriors have won. Yeah. Decades. If decades is the right term, that's grammatically correct for those listening to this podcast. It's like an hour and a half drive from downtown San Francisco. So it's going to be a lot of Dubs fans in Sacramento, no doubt.
That's true. That's not incorrect, but that doesn't change the fact that it's still a road atmosphere for the most part, and the Warriors have not played well away from Chase Center. So I would manage my expectations in that series. And then you've got the Clippers and the Suns, which could have been a really, really interesting matchup if Paul George was healthy, but he is not. He is aiming for potentially a return late in the series, but
what's wrong with him now?
He had a rough landing and tweaked his knee. It looked really bad. I was surprised he wasn't out for the year after that. So the fact that he has potential to come back after just a few weeks is reassuring, if anything. But it was interesting. There was some mental gymnastics and some machinations going on with the Clippers on Sunday. They were playing the Suns, who were locked into the 4 seed, had nothing to play for. So Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, none of them played. They all sat. So they're playing, the JV Suns or something like that. And the Clippers had to win because the Warriors were pasting the Trailblazers, and the Pelicans and the Timberwolves were duking it out in a tough game. And if the Pelicans had won that game and the Warriors had won their game, which they did, and the Clippers lost to the Suns, the Clippers would have fallen into the 7 spot and been in the play-in. So the Pelicans kind of kept them honest a little bit by making them play that out. And even more so, the Pelicans-Timberwolves game was close. So there was never a point where Ty Lue could say, okay, well, the Pelicans lost, so let's just tank this game and get the 6th seed and make the Warriors face the Suns in the first round, and we can get the Kings instead. But there was even a point where Ty Lue, you could read his lips. There's about maybe a minute or so left in the Clippers-Suns game, and Ty Lue, you could read his lips saying, what's the score in the Pelicans-Timberwolves game? And somebody said, the Timberwolves are up by 1, and he kind of begrudgingly nodded his head and said, okay, we'll go win the game. Like, he clearly didn't want to. He was hoping to be able to tank it and get the 6th spot, but they couldn't risk falling into the play-in. And to be honest, I think they should have just fallen into the play-in. Right? Like, what would you prefer? In the first round, if you had the choice. Even if you have to go through a play-in game against, in this case, it would have been the Timberwolves. Or maybe even the Lakers. If you have to go through that, it's like you got 2 games to win 1, and then you come through that and you get to either face the Grizzlies or the Nuggets in the first round with no Paul George, or would you rather face the Suns, who have KD and Devin Booker and Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton? I think I'd want to face the Suns later.
Yeah.
When I'm healthy, because Paul George would be back presumably for a second-round series. So maybe the strategy was off, but I also understand the idea of missing the playoffs comes with major scrutiny and a lot of criticism. Even if you're a play-in team in the 7th spot, if you screw up and lose 2 play-in games and you fall out of the playoffs altogether, it's like missing the playoffs. It's the same thing. And people will say, you guys couldn't even make the playoffs. You guys are doing too much load management. I don't know what the hell Ty Lue's doing. People call him for his head and stuff like that. You've got to make the playoffs. You can make a case for yourself if you make the playoffs and lose to the Suns with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. It's hard to make the case when it's like, yeah, you didn't even make the postseason. So, got to get in the tournament, so I do understand that. And plus, you don't want to look like a team that's ducking people on purpose. That makes you look like chumps. It makes you look scared. And we watched the Clippers do this a couple years ago, where they tanked to avoid Portland in the first round. This is the year of the bubble, and they instead decided, hey, let's take our chances with Dallas. Actually, no, this wasn't the bubble year. This is 2021, and they got Dallas, and Dallas gave them all they could handle. Luka was killing them, whereas they had owned Portland all year. It's like, why wouldn't you just take on, just go with, just take your chances with the Trailblazers, but. Yeah, it clearly didn't work out then, and yeah, it wasn't going to work out here either. But yeah, I'm picking the Suns to win that series, probably in, I'll say 6 games, just because Kawhi's Kawhi, and there's still a little bit of concerns I have with the Suns' depth, and their chemistry isn't probably there it needs to be because Kevin Durant's barely been there.
I'll take Suns in 5 because that's what's going to happen.
Okay, well, you should take what's going to happen. I would hope you wouldn't be like, well, the Warriors are going to win in 6, but I'm going to pick them to win in 7. Now, that'd be weird. But since you're claiming the Warriors are going to win the finals, which is quite a statement.
It's factual.
Apparently it's factual. Apparently it's going to happen. But so I guess that leaves the other mailbag question that Rashonda asked. Who will come out of the West and the East? I'm not going to cop out and say I don't know, even though I don't know. I got to pick somebody. I'll start with the East because I think that's a little easier. I'm taking the Milwaukee Bucks. And it's a little bit of a tough choice because we watched them play the Celtics last year, and the Celtics beat them. But the Celtics had home court advantage in that series, and the Bucks didn't have Chris Middleton. And I think that the Celtics have I feel like maybe they've lost a little bit of their magic. Jaylen Brown seems to have a little bit of a beef with the team because it doesn't seem like they necessarily want him that much. Like, he's been floated in a lot of trade rumors and things like that, even though he's an essential piece of their team. He seems to have developed a little bit of a chip on his shoulder over that, and that doesn't always manifest itself in a way that leads to winning. It can lead to strife. I mean, we watched 2 different sets of teammates get into fights on the bench. We watched Bones Highland and Mason Plumlee get into a shouting and shoving match on the Clippers bench. And, of course, we watched Rudy Gobert with his extendo arm punch Kyle Anderson in the chest, kind of. And, you know, we also saw Jaden McDaniels broke his hand punching a wall heading into the locker room. So he's out for the Timberwolves for however long they last, which may only be one more night. So a lot of anger and violence here. Starting to think maybe the Warriors are happy that Draymond decided to punch a teammate in October instead of in April, but might have worked out better for him.
Oh no!
Just saying. So, all right, Western Conference. I am taking. Oh my God, who's? Oh my God, this is impossible. This Western Conference.
Denver.
I just told you.
You did just tell me, and I might have to agree, which is insane. Like, there's no chance.
Aren't they the 7th seed?
The 6th. There's no chance.
No, the Warriors are 6th.
There's no chance Golden State wins the West. And yet, I don't think there's a chance anybody wins the West, but somebody's got to. These teams all suck. The Nuggets are terrible. They're going to get bounced in the second round.
All we can say is that there is a 100% chance that somebody is going to win that conference.
I was low-key hoping that the Lakers would lose and then win to get the 8th spot to face the Nuggets in the first round, just because then it's like, okay, one of these fraud teams is going home immediately and we can just get them out of the way and worry about the other one later. But, they both, in theory, could advance, and it's going to drive me crazy. But again, how do you pick Golden State when they were so bad on the road all year and they've had people in and out of the lineup and this, that, and the other going on? And yet, how do you pick anybody else? And it feels like in that situation, you might have to defer to the defending champs. You might have to defer to the team that has never lost a Western Conference playoff series when they've had all their guys healthy.
To defer to the team that has Stephen freaking Curry.
It also helps to have him and Draymond and Klay Thompson's been better than he was last year. And they got Gary Payton the second back, right? I mean,
They got rid of James Wiseman, who's apparently the worst basketball player of all time. And I played basketball in my life, so that's saying something.
The Pistons went 1-19 with James Wiseman in the lineup the last 20 games. He was a minus 13.4 for 100 possessions, the worst by far in the NBA.
In the whole NBA.
The number 2 overall pick in the same draft class as Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball and Tyrese Halliburton. Those are 3 All-Stars I just named. James Wiseman, the number 2 overall pick, contributes less than anybody. He contributes more to losing than anybody. It's hard to fathom how that happens, but it's true.
Isn't he a Duke guy?
Nah, he went to Memphis for 5 seconds because he was deemed ineligible after 3 games because I guess they determined that Penny Hardaway did something untoward in recruiting him, and so he played 3 college games and then had to sit down and then went into the NBA draft. So, if he had played that season, I imagine he would have played his way out of the lottery and would not have been picked number 2 overall. So,
he would have played his way out.
Yes. No. Yes, I mean, that's what Melo Trimble did. He was going to be a first-round pick. He came back to school, and where's he at? I don't know.
Almost getting hit by Drew.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Drew almost hit him with his car. That's a story. Drew would have been a dead man if he had run Melo Trimble. He wouldn't have made it off of campus. He would have been toast. Did somebody put Thunderstorm at the end of Thunder? Like I noted Pell's Thunder in the notes, and then it was finished with Thunderstorm. Because they are not the Thunderstorm.
I didn't do that.
Okay.
It was definitely you, Corey. You're the one who's been typing in there the whole time, and it's just been, gobbledygook.
I've been typing in there?
Well, maybe Eric has. It's been the purple cursor, so I think that's Eric.
Maybe I've been fingering stuff.
It's Eric.
It probably just auto-corrected it to
That's
Thunderstorm.
all you, man.
Yeah, I guess I gotta take the L on that one. But yeah, that's kind of it for basketball, though, right? Like, none of the series in the first round are that interesting except for the Cavs and the Knicks, and I already said I don't think the Knicks have a chance. So, what are we excited for the playoffs, guys? I know, Corey, last year you said that after watching the finals at least last year that you were it kind of got you into playoff basketball. Are you going to be watching any of these games?
Rashonda will be watching, and therefore I will be watching.
Okay, so it's like The Bachelor, but with sports.
Sure.
A lot of men watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette with their girlfriends or wives because their girlfriends and wives are into it. But that doesn't sound like that's you.
No.
But it might be the case with NBA playoffs.
Yes.
Okay. Good for you. Happy for you. Evan, you going to be watching any of these games?
I'll be watching baseball.
Okay. Well, so let's get a little update on baseball, though, because I think we're pretty much ready to get out of here, which is crazy because it's been less than an hour.
Yeah, and all the time while I was totally 100% listening to everything you said on NBA, the Orioles were down 4-2, and then Cedric Mullins again, RBI single, and then some guy called Adley Rutschman with an RBI single. So now the Orioles and the A's are tied at 4.
Cedric Mullins, even when he starts batting 182 for the season, still can't escape him.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah. Well, hopefully the
Pinch
Orioles...
hit for McKenna.
Pinch hit for McKenna. Hopefully those days can, are not long, because I'm tired of having McKenna in the lineup. He's terrible. He's just awful.
Well, McKenna got a hit.
I don't care.
Tonight, so
I don't care. James McCann got a hit yesterday, and he got pinch hit for by McKenna. What was that?
I thought Vavra pinch hit for him.
But then didn't McKenna pinch hit for Vavra?
Sure.
Yeah. The DH became a pinch hit slot. Might as well have had the pitcher in there.
I said that at the time.
Yes, you did.
Oh.
I was there.
How does that happen?
No,
how does the
7.
designated hitter get pinch hit for when that's what they're there for?
Like normally, so the Orioles are carrying 3 catchers on their roster for
reasons.
I don't know.
Supposedly reasons.
But James McCann is the backup catcher who recently just got called up because he had an injury in the spring and he was rehabbing that. And so most people thought that Anthony Bemboom would then be sent down because now he's the third catcher and he's not really needed on the roster. Not so fast. So normally you would expect the only time McCann to see the field would be he catches, Rutschman either DHs or just gets the day off. Well, Adley was catching yesterday. So why was McCann in the lineup? Because he was DHing. And then by some Christmas miracle, this guy who has like a weighted runs created plus of like 22 the last few years, which is bad, by the way, for those who don't know analytics. That's like, again, it's a quarter of an average player. He somehow gets like a huge double, and then he gets pinch hit for him. Like, you had the confidence to DH this guy.
And then he
actually delivered, much to our shock. And then you take him out of the lineup. Like I don't know. Like I shouldn't complain. The Orioles won the game, and
because
they're 6-5.
There was a right-handed pitcher.
I don't care. I don't care about righty-lefty. I don't care about it.
I don't either.
Neither did
Brandon
Billy Beane.
Hyde, that's the only thing he can see.
He couldn't
catch that ball in Cincinnati.
Yeah, he couldn't catch that ball in Cincinnati. That was embarrassing. I'm never gonna forget that. That was horrible. Yeah. I could not believe he dropped that. Like, just clown behavior right there. I was like, wow. All right, well, that kind of does it for the show. Looks like Keegan Aiken's.
I do want to mention, though.
Oh, go ahead, Evan.
The Rays, we mentioned them earlier. They were rolling the Red Sox. I think it was like 7-2 or something like that. It's now 8-7 Tampa Bay. So, in the 7th.
They're still ahead.
It's just been some craziness. Yeah.
Looks like the Orioles are promptly giving back the lead. They've already allowed 2 runners on base and nobody out. So that's wonderful.
Yep.
So
they wasted no time.
So that kind of exhausts the topics, does it not? Like, any breaking news? Anything interesting happen?
Not that I saw.
I don't think so.
Kind of a boring show.
Yeah, short show.
We have a normal length podcast for the first time ever.
I mean, it works because we did have a late start too.
Yeah, I'm hungry too. I gotta get something to eat. All right, so we're gonna do this a little differently this week. We're gonna do shout outs before I do the long read because apparently last week some people got confused and logged off before the shout outs were done because they're like, hey, they're doing a spiel about where to find us. So, all right, so Corey, you have any shout outs?
No, I don't have any shout-outs this week.
Oh,
no, I don't.
Do you need me to do the spiel so you can have some time to process?
No.
One? Okay. You just ain't got none. All right.
I just didn't have one.
All right. Evan, what do you got? Anybody?
Shout out to my dad's friend who invited us to the Orioles home opener last Friday. Another Orioles W.
All right, and I've got a somber shout out to Billy Hahn, former Maryland assistant coach. He was on Gary Williams' staff the year the Terps won the national championship. And for those who did not have the privilege of attending Gary Williams' basketball camp as a kid, Well, I did, and Billy Hahn was basically the camp director in a lot of ways. And he was a really cool guy, had a lot of energy, nicest guy you'd ever meet. He was sort of the yin to Gary's yang, right? Like Gary was very stoic and, it wasn't big booming voice. I'm sure he was in practice or during games when he's screaming at people, but he was kind of like low key. And Billy Hahn was just, the attaboy guy, the rah-rah guy, and he made the camp a lot of fun. And obviously he's a big part of Maryland history as well. He's a former player, and he's going to be missed. So rest in peace to Billy Hahn. So that'll do it for our show. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you want to send us feedback or mailbag questions, which we have gotten a couple of the last few weeks, you can email us at sportsballers.com. Or not sportsballers.com, the sportsballers@gmail.com. I'm sorry. I'm mixing up our new fancy website that we have. Also, you can get this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, or Amazon. And if you have a podcatcher that we are not on, let us know, and we will do our best to accommodate you. You can follow our page on Twitter at sportsballers18. That's where you can find out when we're doing shows. We've kind of been all over the place with the schedule the last couple of weeks, so that's the best way to find out when we're going to be doing our next show. So keep that in mind.
Unfortunately, it will not help you determine when Evan will not have connection issues.
We can't determine when Evan's going to have connection issues, so if y'all can at home, let us know. You can follow us individually. Corey is at Corey Puffett. I am at Quagmire67, and Evan is at Evan_Ash13. And that'll do it. So next week, Evan will be running the show. I will be on a boat, so I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to pull this off. I might have to take next week off. So
he'll be on a boat, and
that's right.
Be going fast.
Thank you.
And
that's correct. Thank you,
Corey. He'll have a nautical-themed Pashmina Afghan.
Everybody gets the reference. I appreciate it. So next time you hear from your boy here, it might be during the draft podcast.
We shall see.
We will see. I will do my best to try to get on the show next week, but I will be off in the Caribbean somewhere. So
if you're not on the show, I don't know if there will be a show, because what are we going to be talking about?
Yeah, y'all can talk about the NBA. Yeah,
sure. Talk about baseball for 10 minutes.
You can do a baseball pod.
And that'll be it.
Just a little pop-in, like the Coaster News Daily News thing. It's like 5 minutes long. You can just do that.
Yeah.
Just
a daily little update, and then we'll get out of there.
Well, since apparently it's my time to shine on the podcast because it's all NBA all the time, I will try my best to make the show happen. If I can't, I will see you in 2 weeks, and maybe Corey and Evan will too. So until then, have a good one.
And you might see us.
Yes.